Hello again, I'm still Ben, back to the hat to find out what our topic is today. These things always want to fall out of this hat. Maybe I should get a different hat. Maybe this hat. No, not this hat. This hat is for when I don't want to deal with my hair. Shoot for 100%. Shoot for 100%. What does that mean? Well, this is definitely another one in the philosophy section here. Welcome back to the philosophy section. I do hope you're watching all of these because these are designed to maybe explain some of the other policies or the backgrounds a little bit better. What I mean by shooting for 100% is the statistical backslide of our standards, right? Because what happens over time with using statistics to generate an expected result is that we start to slide down in our standardization for things, whether it's a school system or whether it's, whatever we're doing policy-wise. We're already too compromise minded versus shooting for exactly what you want as a democracy. Obviously we're not going to get exactly what we want. We understand how statistics works, but this is an example of when understanding and crunching all the numbers doesn't really help us if we don't maintain the course of trying to do our best. I think the best example is really kind of in a school system sense, where it's okay, you can get 100 on a test, but what's the average that people get? Maybe somewhere in a high C, low B. So once you keep averaging all those statistics and you're well, very few people get perfect scores or, very high scores. It's much more normal to get sort of a middle B, middle low B than anything else. You do that long enough, then what's going to happen is you start to see that middle low B as the bar, right? And then compared to the average that we're taking, people look at that and go, well, you got a C instead. That's pretty close. That's not bad. And the more we lower that and the more we allow our expectations to be lowered, the worse things get. And I think that goes for how much we need to insist our government work for the people as well. We say, well, we can't get everything done, so we get a little bit done. And then after we are used to that much being done, they'll do a little less. And then we'll go, well, that's pretty close. That's pretty close to what we expected. Okay? Expect perfection. All right? Have some faith in yourself. Try a little harder. All right? You're not going to get it. This is a very philosophical take because it's practically meditative, where you have to have desires without expectation in a way, where you want to shoot for these things and you want to get that 100%. But if you don't get it, well, we know that that's still pretty normal. But if you're lowering what you're aiming at, suddenly instead of aiming for perfection, you're aiming for a B. Then when you get a C, you're still not disappointed. You're that's close. And then it goes down and down and down from there. You have to try to hit that perfection, even if we know we're not going to get it. We have to all vote our hearts, even if we know we're not going to get it. Even if whatever the practical functional compromise of all of our voting and representation means, it's still going to be better than lowering that expectation as the people in charge keep doing less and less and less. I think one of my favorite examples is how Congress is designed to only be in session when it's called in session and when things are necessary. Why isn't this a full-time job? I get the way that the Constitution designed it, but that is long overdue for a change. That needs to be at least 40-hour work week for all of you schmucks out there. There's no going home and doing something else. There's no recessing and shutting the government down and avoiding accountability. You work for us, okay? And we, as the people, need to start expecting, or rather at least shooting for, the 100%. We know we're not going to get that practically, but that's where the compromise is supposed to arrive. We can't compromise our values and morals before we vote. We can't compromise our expectations before we voice them. We have to try to hit that 100%. And when we don't, and we all collectively pull together and, whatever the average vote has been, whatever the country has deemed, tallied up, then that's what it is. Okay. I think that's the part that people get upset about. And the more, statistically minded use that as a way to keep lowering our expectations for success. That's not appropriate. I think everybody needs to shoot for 100%. And when we don't get it, understand that shooting for 100% is still crazy, but it's what you have to do. Like, why wouldn't you want exactly what you want? Why would you vote for someone that is crap and that you hate? And as every single time we've got anyone on a ballot anywhere, it doesn't make any sense. We need to try harder so that by the time the compromise is done, we land where we still know is going to be pretty good instead of collectively getting worse. So that's what I mean when I say we have to shoot for 100%. That statistical likeliness is completely out the window of actually getting it. But if you don't shoot for it, you don't know if you will or not. Maybe it seems completely insane, but who knows? If you're not aiming at the target, you're definitely not going to accidentally hit this kind of target. My name is Ben Howison. Sursum Corda.